Thank you, Chairman. My hope, again, is that today's hearing will focus on forward-looking solutions that will improve the safety of Americans at home and around the world. The American people want bipartisan solutions and not hyperpartisanship. My hope is that going forward, this hearing will retain that focus. But it's also important that the American people know the facts. And the fact is that it was Donald Trump's Taliban deal that set the chaos in motion. That Trump-Taliban deal did not include a comprehensive ceasefire, did not include any plan for providing protection for Afghan nationals who risked their lives to assist American service members, no protections for the Afghan government, no guarantee that the United States could continue to engage in intelligence gathering or other operations to root out terror threats in Afghanistan. The Trump-Taliban deal allowed 5,000 Taliban soldiers to be released from prison prior to the start of the Biden administration. And to celebrate the signing of the deal, President Trump planned to invite Taliban leaders to Camp David, only canceling after the American people found out and were rightly outraged at the notion. In the months following the signing of the deal, Taliban attacks in Afghanistan increased by 70% to nearly 100 attacks per day over the same period the previous year. So, look, we can point fingers all day long. I think what the American people want us to do is focus on the future and focus on how we can reduce threats to the American people and the American homeland going forward. So, Dr. Schroden, I'll ask you to expand on the final points that you made in your testimony. What type of capabilities should we focus on developing and strengthening in order to mitigate terror attacks from abroad?
Well, I think specific to Afghanistan, right, we are in a situation where the bulk of our intelligence, at least as it's openly discussed, comes from flying drones from many hundreds of miles away, air bases in the Middle East, over Pakistani air base and over Afghanistan. Roughly 50%, if not slightly more, of their available sortie time, their flight time, is dedicated to transiting to and from Afghanistan, leaving them only about 50% of their availability to gather intelligence over the country itself. So there are a couple of ways that one could try to increase the efficiency of that approach, right? One is to invest in drones that have longer duration time, and there are variants being developed now that could do that. Another would be to try and shorten the transit time by negotiating a basing agreement in a neighboring country or trying to establish perhaps a lily pad or some type of sea base off the coast of Pakistan. So those are immediate things that I think could be done, or at least attempted to do. And then trying to reestablish our intelligence collection on the ground through human networks in Afghanistan is a harder and likely longer-term prospect. But again, given the timelines I described of likely facing these threats for at least the next 10 years, if not longer, those types of efforts, even if they have longer payoffs, are worth investing in now.
And can you expand on your comment about gathering open source and signals intelligence to try to mitigate terror threats from Afghanistan as well?
Sure. In this day and age, and I think you've seen this with the war in Ukraine as well as a number of other, the Chinese balloon incident, et cetera, there is a wealth of information available through open source channels, through social media, that can be harnessed in ways that was previously unavailable to us. I'm an avid Twitter user, right? I follow a lot of Twitter accounts coming out of Afghanistan. There is a lot of very interesting information that could be used and combined with actual intelligence gathered by the United States to paint a much richer picture of what's happening in Afghanistan than we might have been able to do in the past. The intelligence community has sort of usually, traditionally been reticent to rely that much on open source reporting because they don't control where it comes from. But I don't think we have the luxury anymore, especially with respect to Afghanistan, of only relying on sort of exquisite intelligence that the U.S. collects. We need to expand and include open source information as well.
And do you agree that foreign terror organizations, including possibly in Afghanistan, are focusing increasingly on radicalizing U.S.-based persons in order to encourage them to attack the United States homeland?
I think that's been the case for some number of years, if not, 7 years or longer. I mean, the U.S. homeland has been considerably hardened in the decades since 9/11. It is a lot harder for these organizations to get into the United States directly. And so inspiring people to conduct attacks with weapons that are readily already available in this country has been a primary motive of their attempts for some time.
Thank you. I yield.